Hello, everyone. This is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts, and this is Prehistoric Facts special episode number 235. We're going to be talking about a carnivorous dinosaur today, and that carnivorous dinosaur is Majungasaurus. And so, a lot of you that are watching the second season of Chaos Theory, you may recognize this dinosaur, or otherwise, some of you that have seen like Jurassic Fight Club or Prehistoric Planet, this dinosaur is very familiar to you as well. So yeah, this is a artist rendition of possibility of what Majungasaurus possibly look like, and so there's different types of renditions of Majungasaurus, but this is one I do like a lot. But Prehistoric Planet version is pretty good, and yeah, I do like the Prehistoric Planet version, and so yeah, this is a pretty cool dinosaur. Some information about Majungasaurus. The name Majungasaurus means Mahajunga reptile. Length is 23 feet or 7 meters. Height is 6 feet or 1.8 meters. Weight is 2,200 to 2,400 pounds. And it lived 70 to 66 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period. And the fossils are found in Madagascar, and it was described by de in 1896. So this dinosaur's not really that new. It's actually been around for a while, even though when Duperrey discovered the fossils, he thought that those were just Megalosaurus. I mean, back then, a lot of meat-eating dinosaurs that were discovered in other countries that were not from the United States or Canada, mainly in Europe and some parts of Africa, were just named Megalosaurus a lot. But it wasn't until the 1950s is when scientists actually looked at the fossils a little bit more and they figured out that, like, no, this is not Megalosaurus. This is a different species. This is a new species of dinosaur, and they give it the name Majungasaurus. Now, you might have heard the name Majungatholus as well, but that is not the correct name because Majungatholus was named because of a part, like a piece of bone from the skull, and it was thought to belong to a pachycephalosaur, and that was given the name Majungatholus. But it wasn't until the 90s it was when they actually looked at the that type of specimen and realized, wait a minute, no, this is not a pachycephalosaur. This is the same skull material that is for Majungasaurus. And it wasn't until the mid 90s is when they actually found more specimens of Majungasaurus, and they actually we have a complete skull. We actually have a bit more of a skeleton, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's Majungasaurus has been around for a while. And so here is a map of Africa, and Madagascar is this tiny island on the southeastern part of Africa. And so that's where Majungasaurus fossils have been found. And here's a size comparison of Majungasaurus compared to like an average sized dog. So Majungasaurus is not a very large dinosaur whatsoever. It's kind of small for a dinosaur, but it's still big enough. And here is the skeleton of Majungasaurus in terms of its completion, if it was fully complete. Now, from my understanding, I think some parts of the skeleton, like say the tip of the tail, and I think a couple of ribs are still missing. But we do have complete arms, we do have complete legs, pelvis, um, the shoulder blade, the vertebrae in the neck, and also onto the thoracic vertebrae, and of course we have a complete skulls. We have complete skulls of Majungasaurus. And some more information about Majungasaurus. It is part of the group of theropod dinosaurs called the Abelisauridae. So it is an abelisaur. So it's very similar to Carnotaurus, Scorpiovenator, and Abelisaurus and Achosaurus. You know, those types of dinosaurs, but it's also part of its own group of dinosaurs called the Majungasaurinae, and so yeah, and so Majungasaurus is part of its own group of abelisaurs. So there's some things of Majungasaurus that do make it a little bit different compared to other abelisaurs like say Carnotaurus. One is that the skull is wide. It's a wider skull. And so it's still going to be the typical bulldog type of very short skull, but it's wider. It's a wider skull, so that means it's got a much more muscles in the back of the skull for actually to for like say the neck muscles and of course the jaw muscles to give it a much stronger bite. Now, I'm not saying that Majungasaurus is going to like crush bone. The teeth are not designed to crush bone like say a Tyrannosaurus, but it's actually they have a very thin knife-like teeth, but they're actually pretty strong for a theropod dinosaur. Majungasaurus has a horn on top of the skull, and the skull actually has a very rough texture around it. So, what does that imply? Does Majungasaurus have like a lot of like say like very rough skin on the skull? It's possible. It's a possibility because like why would the skull very would have a rough texture, especially like on the snout, towards the eyes, and even right on top of the skull where the horn is. So the horn is definitely part of that rough texture, and so more likely for display structure than anything else. But the skulls were still strong enough to be able to use for pushing and shoving matches. That's probably the reason why it did have that horn on top of the skull for combat use, but mainly for display structures. It's mainly for display first, and it would actually be a combat uh, like structure for pushing and shoving matches. And of course, like all Abelisaurus, Majungasaurus has very small arms, and they're mostly useless. But they did have a ball and socket type of joint on the where the humerus, the upper arm bone, connects to the shoulder blade. So they probably did use like a circular motion to actually use their arms for like a secondary display structure. Majungasaurus also has very short legs for its body size. So this means this animal is not particularly very fast. This is more likely going to be an ambush predator more than anything else. And a lot of the prey items that were around at that time were very slow moving type of animals. And of course, there's some bite marks that have been found on Majungasaurus fossils and that belonged to Majungasaurus. And so Majungasaurus was one of the first dinosaurs to showcase cannibalism. So they ate their own kind. Now, for some of these fossils, did this mean that one Majungasaurus killed the other and ate it? Or was it more likely that a Majungasaurus found a dead uh, Majungasaurus and just ate the remains? More likely than not, they were more likely that one Majungasaurus scavenged off of a carcass of a Majungasaurus, and so that's probably more likely the reason why. Now, could they actually have killed and eat each other? Absolutely. There is definitely a possibility. If like food was really scarce, they probably did have to do it, but they probably didn't do it very often. It was probably a very rare thing to happen. And of course, Majungasaurus is a carnivore or a meat-eating dinosaur. And so the environment in which Majungasaurus lived in, it would have been warm and semi-humid. So there would have been times of humidity, but there's also times of very dry uh, air quality, very dry air or climate, so to speak. But it had Madagascar had dense forests and even dry open landscapes. So that would basically mean that there's some areas that were uh, have dense forests. There was areas where there was a little bit more open habitat and kind of almost like arid type of environments. But there was still plenty of vegetation and sources of water around for animals to actually be able to survive. The types of plants are around, plenty of trees, ferns, cycads, and flowers. Of course, no grass. There would have been plenty of rivers, lakes, ponds, and of course, surrounding Madagascar at that point in time was the southern end of the Tethys Sea. And so the Tethys Sea was connected to the Indian Ocean at that point in time in the late Cretaceous period because India was still a large island. Uh, and of course, Madagascar is an island, of course. And so, yeah, so that you actually have animals that were actually from, like, because, like, say from India and Africa, and once India and Africa split apart, giving us Madagascar. Some of the animals that were actually originally from those two lands were actually kind of stuck into this island, and so that's just where you call dwarfism. Island dwarfism is where animals have to shrink in size in order to actually adapt to the smaller amount of land that they're actually living in. But Madagascar is still kind of a large island. It's not a tiny island by any means. It's still a kind of a large island. It's kind of. That's why I say kind of. And there are plenty of other animals that were around in the time of Madagascar, around the late Cretaceous period from 70 to 66 million years ago. Plenty of insects, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, birds or avian dinosaurs. Pterosaurs were around there too. And of course, other non avian dinosaurs were around too. So Majungasaurus is going to be the top predator in the late Cretaceous of Madagascar. And so it was the top predator. And so it actually fed on a sauropod called Repetosaurus. Repetosaurus fossils have been found alongside Majungasaurus fossils. And so that was probably the number one prey source for uh, Majungasaurus. They probably also ate like smaller animals too. So there's like other animals like say Simosuchus and a couple of like other types of smaller dinosaurs that were around at that point in time. And of course, carrion. It would actually it would scavenge whenever it could actually find a dead carcass that was lying around. And so it's a opportunistic predator. That's what Majungasaurus really is. And so the extinction of Majungasaurus was mostly due to the K-Pg extinction event. So a giant asteroid 6 miles wide hit the Gulf of Mexico, creating all these sorts of like events that actually happened. So like earthquakes, tsunamis, debris from the impact raining back down onto the earth, and of course wildfires from that debris. And so Majungasaurus probably didn't feel the brunt of that, like say that impact from the asteroid. It didn't feel it because it was miles and miles away. So it probably heard the bang. It probably heard the bang from the impact, that sonic boom, and of course it probably felt a little bit of that shockwave. But that shockwave probably dissipated enough toward around Africa that basically that Madagascar probably didn't actually have that much of a big impact onto the shockwave, but tsunamis were part of that. So tsunamis and the earthquakes were definitely the reason why that Majungasaurus probably went extinct. It was mostly due to the earthquakes and the tsunamis. And so, and since Madagascar was an island at that point in time, so it probably got swept. So some of the animals did get swept up by huge waves from the ocean, big tsunamis that actually just obliterated Madagascar. Didn't really fully drown it, but really once the waters receded back and Madagascar was actually exposed once again, the probably landscape was mostly bare. It was mostly bare. And so, but there were still plenty of mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and some insects that still survived, and even birds that still survived that were able to actually find cover. Probably some of the birds went to like Africa to actually escape the carnage, and of course, some of the mammals probably did actually burrow as far as they could to escape the carnage as well. But yeah, there was plenty of animals that did survive, but mainly animals that were smaller than a domesticated pig were actually the ones that survived. And so Majungasaurus was not one of those. And so Majungasaurus, Repetosaurus, and a few other animals that went extinct as well. And so here's the map of the Earth around the extinction event. You can see the one spot right there where the impact crater is. Just ignore the T on here. That's an old uh, symbolism right here because it was Cretaceous Tertiary extinction, but now that's fully changed to K-Pg boundary now instead of KT. This is dated. This is dated, but like yeah, you see here's the impact. Here's where the impact crater is, and here's where Madagascar is. It's in between uh, India and Africa, and so that's where Majungasaurus lived. And so the next episode will be on November 21st, 2024, and there'll be an extra episode to let you guys know what kind of episode I'll be doing for an extra episode on November 21st. So sometime this weekend, I'll actually let you guys know what kind of extra episode I'll be doing. It might be more of a fun one than say like a review or anything like that. But let's make it a fun episode. But if you got any questions about dinosaurs and other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochrist71@gmail.com. Or just go to my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of DinoChrist. Like the page, you can post your questions in the comment section. Please put them in the comment section. Don't put them on Messenger. Messages are private conversations. So please put your questions in the comment section on any Facebook post. And also for YouTubers out there, feel free to like the videos, subscribe to the channel according to my analytics, so that if you guys are checking out my channel and not subscribed yet, so please feel free to hit that like button, because that's how the YouTube algorithm works. The more likes the video gets, the more likely the video gets spread out to people that are interested in dinosaurs, prehistoric life, paleontology, and geology in general. And also subscribe, and also share the video, share the channel to anybody that is interested in dinosaurs, prehistoric life, paleontology, and geology in general. So please feel free to do so. Hit that notification bell so that we can get notified of every video that comes out weekly. And also for YouTubers out there, feel free to leave your questions in the comments section, because I do read them all. All of your questions do mean a lot in the Q&A episodes. All of you that are sending me questions via email, Facebook, and YouTube, you guys are awesome. And give me some great questions for the Q&A episodes. And also make sure you keep your questions short to the point. You can also follow me on Instagram at dino.chris.pf. I'll post pretty cool stuff on there. You can also follow me on Threads, same thing, at dino.chris.pf. I'll post pretty cool stuff on there as well. Also, take care of people around you. And also for you younger people out there, and make sure listening to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians is the best motivation. You could have a good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you get a good job in the future. That's it for now, and I'll see you guys next time.